After a long day, I found myself scrolling through my phone, and to my utter disbelief, I stumbled upon some deleted messages that revealed a troubling truth: my significant other had been communicating with someone else. For a moment, it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room, leaving me gasping for understanding. Now, as I sit here at my family's home, I need to provide an update about my current circumstances. Last night was particularly rough. I spent it curled up on the couch, seeking comfort in the familiarity of my childhood home, surrounded by the warmth of family, yet an overwhelming wave of emotions crashed over me. Today, though, things seem a little brighter. I woke up with a renewed sense of hope, comparatively better than the dismal state I found myself in just a day prior. It's strange how a fresh perspective can sometimes bring clarity to situations that feel overwhelmingly complicated. Admittedly, I realize that what I'm about to share may trigger some debates and strong feelings, yet I believe it's important to express my truth. Thank you for your patience as I work through these thoughts. In my earlier posts, I conveyed the heartbreak that has enveloped my soul, and I shared deeply personal experiences that have marked this tumultuous time in my life. As I read through the myriad of responses, I noted the variety of opinions, each one carrying its weight and significance. I must emphasize that this entire situation is not as black and white as it might appear. While there was an outpouring of support encouraging me to walk away from him, I want to clarify that he isn't a monster hiding in plain sight. I remember writing how he had always been the most loving and romantic person I had ever known, and that sentiment still rings true within me. He isn't inherently a bad person, rather, I believe he made an unfortunate choice. This understanding doesn't absolve him of responsibility for his actions, but it adds a layer of complexity that deserves acknowledgement. The emotional turmoil that led to my decision to leave felt like a tidal wave crashing over me, each crashing wave pulling away the calm I had once known. As I boarded that plane yesterday, I felt as if I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. It took every ounce of bravery and resolve to make that leap, leaving everything behind, not knowing what waited for me on the other side. My heart ached with each step I took away from the life we had built together. When the confrontation unfolded, it was a moment thick with tension and unspoken words. He became defensive, and that defensiveness turned into something I did not recognize. In that instant, I was confronted with a choice: to stay and fight for something that felt fragile and broken, or to take a step back and reassess my own needs and desires. I recall vividly the look in his eyes, a mixture of frustration and confusion, as I tried to explain how his actions had hurt me. "Why would you do this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, while a storm of emotions swirled inside of me. It felt surreal, as if I were watching our lives play out in slow motion. Each second dragged on, my chest heavy with anticipation of a response that didn't come. The air was thick with unspoken tension, palpable enough to slice through. He replied with a defensive tone, attempting to brush off my hurt like a pesky fly. "It's not what you think," he insisted, but I couldn't shake the feeling that trust had been shattered between us. His words felt inadequate, echoing in the void that had replaced our once vibrant connection. In that moment, my heart hardened as clarity began to settle in. I didn't recognize the person standing in front of me. His defensiveness created a chasm between us, one that felt insurmountable. Feeling as though I was drowning in a torrent of confusion, I made the decision that would forever change everything. I couldn't stay, not when love had morphed into something that no longer felt safe. I needed space to breathe, to rediscover my own identity outside of this relationship that had become so tangled. And that's precisely what led me to the decision to leave and seek solace among family, where the familiar comforts of home could provide the support I desperately needed. I journey forward, embracing uncertainty with cautious optimism. It's a pathway filled with heartache, but also the possibility of new beginnings. Though the echoes of our past still linger, I remain steadfast in my resolve to heal and grow beyond this moment. Through this experience, I've learned that vulnerability is a double-edged sword. It can expose our rawest selves, yet it can also fortify our spirit to become more resilient. As I continue to navigate this turbulent chapter, I hold on to the belief that every ending gives birth to a new beginning, and I am ready to discover what lies ahead. He exclaimed, "We're just friends." It was nothing more than that. Are you really going to leave right now? Each of these statements only served to intensify the storm swirling in my chest. Rather than providing the comfort I was desperately seeking, they deepened the chasm between us. His insistent reassurances felt hollow, like a fragile facade crumbling before my eyes. Not only was he attempting to conceal the truth from me, but he seemed oblivious to how much further he was driving me away. As I made my way to the airport, I could feel his presence shadowing my every step, like a ghost haunting my decisions. He was right behind me, following the car that had come to whisk me away, the urgency of his pursuit palpable in the air. For a full hour, he attempted to reason with me, pouring out his vulnerabilities as I sat there, torn between love and betrayal. I could see the deep sorrow etched across his features, his eyes reflecting a profound understanding. He was on the brink of losing me, and there was nothing he could do to alter that fate. We had been together for nearly a year, a relationship that had blossomed through laughter, shared dreams, and late-night confessions. This was the same man who had once declared that he would give everything, even his life, for me. Now, he appeared almost desperate, pleading with me as if each word was a desperate attempt to hold back the tide of heartbreak threatening to engulf us both. Despite the ache in my heart, I stood my ground and ultimately walked away from him. Sitting in the cramped confines of the airplane, my mind was a chaotic whirlpool of thoughts. I replayed the events of that fateful day over and over, grappling with the intensity of my emotions, the explosive outburst, the tears spilling down my cheeks, the raw pleading that seemed to echo in the air long after I had crafted my decision. My heart felt heavy, but as the plane ascended into the sky, I forced myself to take a step back, striving for clarity in the haze of my feelings. He had been cornered, unable to navigate the sudden pressure of the confrontation. The moment I had unearthed the truth, his complexion had changed dramatically, flushed with a mix of embarrassment and fear. He quickly transformed from defensiveness to guilt, then into an uncertain apology, each stage a reflection of the unraveling reality he had carefully constructed. It became overwhelmingly clear to me in that moment, he was undeniably flawed, a mere mortal wrestling with his own imperfections. Our conversation had become a whirlwind of raw emotions, intentions, and unspoken words. The tension had been thick enough to slice with a knife, and yet, amidst the chaos, there was a flicker of something profound, a connection that had intertwined our lives for so long. The laughter shared over silly inside jokes, the long nights spent talking about our dreams and fears, it all felt bittersweet now, overshadowed by the reality of betrayal. It wasn't just his words that haunted me, it was the very essence of what could have been. My heart ached for the memories we had created, moments that no longer felt safe within the context of trust we had built. The notion that moments of intimacy could be based on deceit rather than love tore at me from the inside. I wondered if I'd ever truly known him, or if I had merely known the version of himself he chose to showcase. As I stared out of the airplane window, watching the clouds drift by like lost opportunities, I felt a surge of resolve wash over me. I could heal from this, I told myself, even as the tears threatened to spill again. The endless horizon beckoned with promise. Life had a way of moving forward, even when it felt impossible. I glanced at my phone, the messages from him still lingering in my mind. The mixture of emotions, anger, sadness, betrayal, swirled inside me like a tempest. Each notification brought a wave of memories flooding back, laughter shared over coffee, quiet moments of understanding, those precious times when everything felt perfect. The stark contrast to the current reality cut deep, reminding me of the fragility of trust and the complexity of love. With my heart pounding fiercely, I resolved that this was not the end of my story, it was merely a significant chapter. I wouldn't be defined by this moment, I would rise above it, stronger and more sure of myself. I felt a flicker of hope igniting within. In the midst of heartache, I would find a way to embrace a future that flowed with possibility rather than despair. In time, I hoped I would be able to forgive him, not for his sake, but for my own peace of mind. I needed to learn to love again, starting with myself. As the plane soared higher, I took a deep breath and imagined a life filled with freedom, possibility, and growth, one where lessons learned would only fortify my spirit. I was ready to embrace the journey ahead, but he managed the situation so poorly, it was almost heartbreaking. I had tried to explain to him that all he needed to do was accept responsibility for his actions and offer a sincere apology, without a mountain of excuses piled on top. Had he chosen that path, perhaps I wouldn't have felt compelled to step onto that plane, leaving our shared space and leaving him behind. Sure, we might not have been cuddled up together under the same sheets that particular night, but at least I would have been home, finding solace in the memories we had crafted together. There's a profound distinction between a truly courageous individual and one overwhelmed by cowardice. It's crucial to recognize that human beings are complex, we are layered, multifaceted creatures who often don't fit neat little boxes. Perfection is a fleeting illusion, an unreachable beacon on the horizon of human experience. In this world, I've come to accept that while we may encounter warning signs, red flags, if you will, it doesn't mean the journey is over. I staunchly believe in the power of forgiveness, the beauty of fresh starts, and the importance of extending second chances, even when wounds run deep. I don't possess a heart of stone, devoid of empathy or understanding. I felt waves of anguish yesterday, but I was not alone in that suffering. He felt it too. That's the curious nature of relationships, they involve shared emotions, a symphony of joy and torment that intertwines our fates. Yet, even with that knowledge, I stand firm in my belief that choosing to walk away yesterday was not only justified but necessary. Regardless of the outcome, whether we find a way back to each other or not, I stood up for myself, and in many ways, that act alone solidified my sense of self-worth. I truly hope this sheds light on my viewpoint as we navigate the complexities that lie ahead. Each moment we face is intertwined with layers of emotions, expectations, and untold stories. I often wonder how we arrived at such a crossroads, where the air thickens with unsaid words and emotions simmer just beneath the surface. I can nearly picture the room we sat in, filled with tension and the scent of unspoken apologies lingering like a ghost. I recall the look on his face, the way his brow furrowed, a clear sign of struggle, as if he were caught in a tempest within. "Why can't you just see my side?" he asked, frustration lacing his voice. "I was trying to protect us." "Protect us? Or protect yourself?" I shot back, my heart pounding with the intensity of the confrontation. The silence that followed echoed between us, heavy and palpable, a world of unresolved issues hanging in the balance. It was as if the very fabric of our relationship was caught in the crossfire of unfiltered emotions, with neither of us willing to back down. I could feel the familiar tightness in my chest as I recalled the moments we had shared, the tender laughter echoing through the rooms of our home, the quiet stillness in the early mornings when we would sip coffee, dreams intertwining like the steam rising from our mugs. But all those memories became overshadowed by disappointment, clouded by the inability to communicate openly and honestly. In those moments of turmoil, it was not just our love that was at stake, but the trust that had been painstakingly built over time. My heart ached as I battled the conflicting emotions swirling inside me. Was it too late to mend the cracks? Or was this the pivotal moment we'd been waiting for, a chance to either let go or push forward more earnestly than before? As I sat in the airport, waiting for my flight, the weight of my emotions crashed over me like waves against jagged rocks. I thought of him, of us, wondering what the future held. And while I felt pain, that sharp sting of loss and uncertainty, a part of me knew that stepping away might be the catalyst we needed, even if it meant walking down a lonely path. In reflecting on my choice to leave, I found solace in the understanding that recognizing one's worth is critical. I knew that staying would only breed resentment, festering wounds that had not yet begun to heal. I had to be true to myself, to my feelings, and that was the essence of empowerment. It became clear that I deserved more than what was being offered, deserving of a love that was whole, unencumbered by insecurity or fear. I hope that in time, he can learn to recognize the weight of his actions and the impact they hold beyond just this moment, beyond our turbulent exchange. Every conversation we had, every moment filled with silence and unexpressed thoughts contributed to forming an intricate tapestry of our relationship, one that could either unravel or be repaired. For now, though, I could only focus on my journey, trusting that maybe, just maybe, this distance would lead us to deeper understanding and healing. As I boarded the plane, I took a deep breath, the scent of metal and upholstery mingling in the cabin air. I closed my eyes, ready to embrace whatever came next. If my story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more. I'd love to hear your advice on the steps I should take. Keep in touch for future stories.